I am. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
Just we.
And I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am. I am.
I am Upward Bound.
But we started Upward Bound in 1965, and I started with that program. There were two gentlemen who were responsible for this program. And we started at Friends University and Sacred Heart College. And at the time, Kansas Newman was called Sacred Heart College and Wichita State University. So it was a consortium. So it was three schools that went together that started this program. And it was interesting for us because you couldn't dance and you couldn't do some of the things at Kansas Newman that you could do at Wichita State. So living in residence on that campus during the summer was really, really interesting. We had a lot of restrictions that you don't have here. But it was a good experience for us because we were away from home for the first time in our lives. You can imagine parents, your child going to visit a parent, going to visit an aunt or an uncle or somebody for the first time and not knowing what that experience is like. Well, think about our parents letting us go to live in the residence hall, even though we were in the city, but outside of that home for the first time. And that's what they were doing. And they were preparing us to go to college, but it was a strange experience for them. Letting us go to a college campus for 7 days for 8 weeks. And 8 weeks was a long time. And they set it up. They couldn't come and visit us. They didn't let them just come up whenever they got ready. So they sent us to Friends University. And if you don't know, Friends University is a Quaker school. And Quakers have very, very different kind of restrictions. And they did that on purpose because if you lived in Northeast Wichita, going all the way to Friends University was like leaving the city of Wichita, you know. And for most of our families, they didn't have a vehicle that you just jumped in and just drove to Friends University. But it was a good experience. And we had an opportunity to improve our academics. Fortunately for me, I was a good student. And most of the students were good students. But all of the students were very different kinds of students. But it was an opportunity to help us to get a very, very different look at who we were. Now, very different to now, there were about 100 of us. So you're talking about a lot of students in that situation. So every day, we had 3 meals a day, so that wasn't unusual. So every day, we got up early in the morning, which was very, very different for a lot of us because they woke us up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We had breakfast and, you know, we went to classes. We had exercise, and we had a choir, and they required us to participate in choir. So we had to go to choir, and we had to go to gymnastics. And as I mentioned to the students who put on the talent show last night, you know, that was a requirement for us too, because they wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to use some of our talent, because the students had other talents. You know, some students could play instruments, some students could sing, some students could read poetry, some students could dance. So they wanted us to be able to hone those skills as well as the academic skills. So they wanted us to know that there was a rare opportunity, that an act had been signed for us to improve our skills. But one of the things that was so important for this program was that they had hired a team of individuals to work with us. And those individuals, and at the time they called them tutor counselors. And those tutor counselors provided the tutorial assistance to us, but they got to know us. They became friends of ours, helping us to talk about college. They would tell us what their skills and abilities were, what kind of things that they were doing in college, and how important college was. You can imagine the fact that we didn't know what college was. Our parents didn't know what college was. And in some cases, most of our parents never ever went to college. You know, they stopped in high school. So going to college was a big deal. And so preparing us for that adventure, you know, these individuals began to help us think about going to an adventure. And it was an adventure for us that we had never thought about. So when we thought about doing something like going to a dance, they would take us off of the Friends University campus and they would bring us to Wichita State University. So we'd get an opportunity to come to a dance. But you also have to think in terms of the time in the city of Wichita. There was a lot of segregation in this city. So don't think about Wichita being the city that it is now at that time, because it was very, very different. I remember us one time wanting to go skating, and we got to the skating rink, and the manager of the skating rink told us that we could not come in because they were not going to let the blacks and the Hispanics, come into that skating rink. And so the director said, if everybody can't come in, then I'm sorry, we can't come in. And so we did not go in. And we protested. And we made sure that the news media and everybody knew that that was extremely important. So we made a difference. And that was one of the responsibilities of Upward Bound as well, to make a difference, to let people know that here were a group of students who believed in what they stood for, who believed in a cause. So not only that particular situation, but in a number of situations, we had to let people know that it was important for us to stand up for what we believed in and who we believed in. And so as time went on, the other two campuses could not handle the kind of students that we were, because we were a lot vocal, a lot more powerful. And so as time went on, we moved to the Wichita State University campus. But this program has grown considerably, and like I indicated, we started out, we were 8 weeks, and we were over 100 students, and the fact that we work year-round is extremely important, because we believed that during the academic year, it was important that the students stayed connected. The students as a group stayed connected, but we also supported the students in their coursework, and we encouraged students to take advanced courses. Upward Bound is not about students just taking some flim-flamsy courses. We want students taking the academic courses that's going to help them to succeed in college, because we don't want them to have to take remedial courses. And parents, whether you realize it or not, a lot of post-secondary institutions are eliminating remedial courses from their course line. And if you're going to send students to a school and they're not going to have remedial courses, and you've got to take a remedial course, you're in trouble. So be prepared to work. Be prepared to do the academic work. So when students talk about the strain of the academic core, it's because they have to be prepared for that. And that's what Upward Bound was about. That's what Upward Bound is about. And we weren't the only one. You know, there are Upward Bound programs all over this country preparing students just for what it is that we're looking at. And at the time when we started, there were very few. There were only 13 Upward Bound programs that started as a part of the initial pilot, and those programs grew. You see Mr. Charlie Jenkins back there. Mr. Charlie Jenkins is one of those people who started with Upward Bound, and he was a tutor counselor, and he was one of those people who started out and he didn't want to deal with that stress, and he complained, and he was like, I'm going to quit. And I had to sit down and have a long conversation with Mr. Jenkins and tell Mr. Jenkins that he had to deal with the reality that these were students who had to have somebody to believe in them, and he had to stay, and he agreed to stay, and he has been with this program ever since. And you have to, one of the things that we have learned is it takes a unique individual to make a commitment to these programs. Everybody can't work in a TRIO program. When I talk about a TRIO program, we have a whole series of programs. We have Upward Bound, we have Talent Search, we have the McNair program, we have the Student Support Services program, we have Educational Opportunity Centers. So we have a whole series of programs, but everybody can't work in these programs. You have to have a commitment to students. You have to believe in students, and you have to believe in their success. And so that is extremely important. And because of how Upward Bound affected me, I continue with this program. And I will continue with these programs until my dying breath, because I believe in these programs, I believe in the success of these programs, and I believe in what they do. And our national organization also believes in that. We fight for the success of these programs. We fight for money for these programs. And when I talk about the fact that if we don't fight for these programs, there won't be money available for these programs. And the money has to come from the federal government. And if the money doesn't come from the federal government, then we can't implement a program where these students are in residence for 8 weeks, 6 weeks, and now, you know, for the bridge students, and the bridge students are the students who take college classes. And for those students to take college classes during the summer, it will go away. And if that goes away, how are we going to help these students prepare? You know, and this is an opportunity for them to take that first shot at college, to see what those college classes are like. So we work very, very, very hard at making sure that we give students every opportunity, every advantage to see what college is all about. So once they have that experience, then we have to convince parents that it's all right for them to let their child then go away and leave the city. And if you think being on the campus is an experience, leaving the city altogether is a huge experience. And so sometimes you've got to believe as a parent that you've done the best that you could do. Now, one of the things that I believe that is so hard for parents is that once that child leaves, oftentimes they don't come back. And that's okay, because now parents have a place to visit. And it's all right to have a place to visit. You know, you can go to Missouri, you can go to California, you know, but you've prepared an opportunity for your family. So see that as an opportunity. And more parents are now seeing that as an advantage. And it's opening up the whole family. Cousins, nieces, nephews, aunts, everybody now is a part of what makes all of this important. So think about how Upward Bound started. Think about where Upward Bound is now. It was very, very, very different, but it has evolved in a very, very, very positive way. Thank you.